and analyst Danny Sheridan.
And hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the College Football Preview. I'm Dan Hicks on by far the most crucial of Saturdays we have had to date. Today's slate of big-time matchups feature everything on the line from conference championships to the national championship. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and welcome our college football analyst, Danny, the real deal Sheridan. And Danny, unlike the Nebraska early season cush schedule, you have taken every game head-on throughout this season. It's a pleasure to see that. You haven't shied away from any big games so far this season. You have a lot on tap for today.
Absolutely, Dan. Win, lose, or draw, we will analyze the top games every weekend. Don't touch that dial.
All right, it is something we have come to expect here on the College Football Preview.
Something that I'm paid to do also.
All right. With so many games featuring so much on the line today, it was difficult to figure out a place to begin. So we'll begin with the biggest crowd of them all. At Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska, more than 73,000 dressed mostly in Cornhusker scarlet and cream will watch their second-ranked Nebraska team take on ninth-ranked Colorado. Both teams a perfect 4-0 in Big 8 play, both teams with 2 games left after today's game. So the winner takes the inside track to the Orange Bowl New Year's Day. And for that team in red, they've been down this road more than a few times before. The scene is all too familiar. The Nebraska Cornhuskers harvest an early season schedule, bulk up in the national rankings and stats, and then watch another national championship go by the wayside. So after 17 years, Tom Osborne finds himself once again looking for his first national title and defending his perfect record.
We've taken a lot of knocks on our schedule, and I think that at some point it becomes one of those self-perpetuating myths. You know, you talk about it enough, and there's enough national commentary, and then it becomes a fact, whether it's reality or not, that we just haven't played anybody.
They play all comers. And who's jumped into that kickoff classic more than Nebraska? They haven't backed off. They go in there and say, we'll play whoever you put against us. They don't even wait to see who it is.
But regardless of the coach's talk, some of the Buffalo players who have labored through one of the toughest schedules around see the big game in a different light.
I don't know so much, you know, if they'll be ready for it. We've been tested. I don't know if they've been tested.
But Big Red fans have heard their coach say on record that this year's defense is the best he's ever coached. Osborne has never been noted for the overstatement. On paper, his defense is the best in the country. On offense, it's been the typical Husker way. Last week against Iowa State, Nebraska rolled up 557 yards on the ground. Running back Leotis Flowers had 208 of them. Quarterback Mickey Joseph, 123. And, oh yeah, almost forgot, he also passed 4 times.
The way our offense is structured, I mean, we're going to run first, and then we're going to throw some passes. We see that, you know, if we do, you know, establish a run, that maybe we can get some passes off.
But the Huskers' run-first, throw-second scheme will be severely tested by a Colorado defense, which is giving up an average of just over 100 yards a game. That lopsided ratio may work against an Iowa State, but against Colorado?
No, I think they're going to have to throw it. I mean, they're not going to be able to run like that on us.
The Buffs are no longer the new kids on the Big 8 block, and they're letting the powers that be know it. They're even creating their own biggest rivalry, and the Sooners are taking a back seat.
Won or lost, the Nebraska game is bigger. Everything that we've done has been in preparation for this. Everything.
Danny, Bill McCartney and the Buffaloes have played some crucial games in the last year and a half, but I don't think I've seen as serious a game face on as McCartney has had for this upcoming game this afternoon in Lincoln.
Well, he's a very intense coach, but it seems he's like that every game. However, he has done an outstanding job, and you have to take your hat off to him.
Well, he's also trying to make Colorado-Nebraska the biggest rivalry, regardless of the Oklahoma-Nebraska history. He's intense about this game, and he wants everybody to know it.
Right, now, I disagree with him there. I don't think that's the biggest game, but whatever. I'm sure it's psychological ploy.
All right, we're going to pick this game a little bit later on, Danny. While they pack him in Lincoln, almost twice as many Virginia State troopers will be needed in anticipation of the largest crowd ever at Scott Stadium in Charlottesville. Today's ACC showdown between top-ranked Virginia and 16th-ranked Georgia Tech has prompted officials to once again grease down the goalposts in the event of another Cavalier milestone win. About 40,000 are expected to see Virginia play one of the biggest games in its history. A win over Tech would leave them just 2 games away from a national championship bowl game. And so far, the Cavs have looked the part. even though they're getting some mild criticism about their schedule as well, which has featured only one top 25 team in Clemson. The Cavs are best known for that more-to-more combo, Sean to Herman. Sean leads the nation in passing efficiency. But Tech has its own defense, one of the best around, and its own Sean. Sean Jones may not be the passer that his counterpart is, but his running ability is unmatched. He makes things happen. He's run for 5 scores along with his 6 touchdown passes and has given the Yellow Jackets a multi-dimensional attack. He could be the Heisman frontrunner of the future, but first he'll try and win a game which has mind-boggling implications.
It has a tremendous importance to our conference. It's got a tremendous importance to the national picture right now, and it's a long time since we've been in that position. And finally, it's got a big significance to the bowl picture. So there's a lot of things that are riding on it, but it's fun.
We have enough offensive powers to be ranked where we are. But once again, we have our doubters, and we must prove once again on national TV that we can play. And I think we will this time.
I wouldn't miss it for the world. The only thing that would keep me from playing in this game would probably be death and the plane crash when we go up there on Friday. I hope that doesn't happen, but that would probably be the only thing that would keep me away from it.
Well, we've mentioned that they beefed up the security at Scott Stadium, but some vandals got into the stadium last night. Apparently, some of those security officials went to sleep because they burned a huge portion of the turf. They went and replaced it this morning. It's going to cost the school $50,000 to $60,000, but they said that the field will be in playing shape by this afternoon's game. Let's talk about this Tech-Virginia matchup, Danny. I could not believe my eyes when I saw the spread on this game. It's huge that Virginia is so heavily favored in this game when Tech has really played all the opponents that Virginia has.
Well, you have to keep in mind, Dan, the betting spread that you read in the papers has absolutely nothing to do with the outcome of the game. It's the betting public's perception of how 2 teams match up, and the betting line is designed to attract equal betting on both sides. I hope I cleared that up for you.
I think you did.
Somewhat. Virginia, they definitely have a big edge on offense with the more-to-more combination. A lot deadlier than the Dan to Danny combination. Georgia Tech, I have to give them an edge on defense. Ken Swilling will be back, and Tech is very formidable on defense. Comparative scores, you have to favor Virginia. Duke and Clemson, Virginia totally dominated them, and as we know, Tech had problems. Duke, to me, the most impressive thing, Dan, is that Virginia hasn't lost to the point spread all year. I'm not sold on Virginia's defense, but I don't care to buck that point spread trend. Believe me, folks.
Oh, man.
It's one thing. I'm going with Virginia minus 13, Dan. It's one thing to be undefeated. It's another thing to be undefeated against the spread. That's much more difficult. So that's why I'm taking Virginia minus a 13. And in some places, it's 13.5.
My goodness. Danny Sheridan, who usually rides the coattails of the underdogs, has gone the other way, minus 13 Virginia. And it's no shaky nod, is it?
No, and I'm sure you won't let me forget it if I'm wrong.
Okay. Well, still ahead, more big matchups, Danny. In the Big Ten, the Hawkeyes and Illini smell some roses. In the SEC, Auburn heads to Gainesville for a date with Florida. This should be a great matchup. The Tigers have remained unbeaten, but they've done it with mirrors. But tonight at Florida Field, will the Tigers finally meet their Gator Lou? We'll talk about it, and Danny will pick it as the college football preview rolls on. Stay with us.
Hello, friends. I just got back from a pleasure trip. Took my mother-in-law to the airport. I said to my mother-in-law, my house is your house. Last week she sold it. I don't lend money to my brother-in-law anymore. It gives him amnesia. I saw my brother-in-law whistle for a cab. He goes like this. Taxi. I got a very neat mother-in-law. She puts paper under the cuckoo clock.
Honey, okay, honey, it's turned on, all ready to go, all right? Hi,
my baby.
I'm your dad.
Over here.
Katie,
Honey,
Katie, over
Angel.
here.
This precious moment was brought to you by a 4-year-old in the easy-to-use Canon E57 camcorder.
Hey, where's the elephant going?
It's okay. I'm sure he'll be back.
Dad, your hair!
This breathtaking moment was brought to you by the Canon E57 camcorder and its brilliant low-light capability.
Everybody made it to the wedding. Lester, Bridget, Sid and Bubbles flew in. Even Donnie got special leave from the Navy. They all found the time. Too bad you had to work.
Konica copiers, they just work all the time.
Put 1, put 2. It all happens Sunday morning. Your first look at the pros begins with NFL Preview. Up front, up close. NFL Preview, Sunday mornings at 11:30 Eastern on CNN.
Welcome back to the college football preview, and just like the Nebraska-Colorado winner taking the inside track in the Big 8 Conference, the winner of today's matchup between the two unbeatens in the Big 10 should decide who makes reservations for Pasadena New Year's Day. It is 7th-ranked Illinois hosting number 13 Iowa. After an opening season loss at Arizona, John Makovic and the Illini have put together an impressive 6-game winning streak, and the defense has been a big part of it. It's the best in the Big 10. It has given up just 1 touchdown at its opponent's last 49 offensive possessions. That covers 15 quarters. The Illini, though, will be tested by a Hawkeye offense, which, like Illinois, is well-balanced. Quarterback Matt Rogers complements a potent rushing attack, hitting on 60% of his passes this season. Rogers has led the Hawks to a sweep of the Michigan schools, and now Iowa has its sights set on a Big 10 title. But since both teams have tough opponents left on the schedule, is it premature to call this the Big 10 clincher?
Well, it's the big one for this week. And the next week there'll be another big one. But it has to be that way. You can't ever roll all the dice on one week until you're the last week of the season. And then after that, there's nothing you can do about it.
I do remember one year they beat us 33-0, and they went to the Rose Bowl. I remember one year that they tied the number 2 team in the nation 3-3, and we beat them the next week 59-0, and we went to the Rose Bowl. So, you know, maybe that's something. Whoever wins this one, maybe they'll go to the Rose Bowl.
Danny, I don't think it's any surprise that Illinois is in the hunt for the Big 10 title, but a lot of people think that it is a big surprise that the Hawkeyes are in the hunt this late in the season. Is it a surprise to you?
No, it definitely is. Kudos have to go to Coach Hayden Fry. This is a team that had a losing record last year. In fact, their first losing record in 8 years. Most of the experts picked this team to finish 5th. I picked them to finish 4th in the conference. Give Illinois a slight edge on defense with Big Mo Gardner, a man who I might add refused to sign Dan Hicks' autograph book. I give Iowa the edge on offense with their quarterback, Matt Rogers, Nick Bell, their running back, and Tony Stewart. Iowa's been an outstanding road team this year, Dan. They beat Michigan, Michigan State, and they played Miami very tough for 3 quarters. And that's why I like Iowa +4. I think they can keep it close, and I'd like to see them in the Rose Bowl. They truly earn it, but they do have a young team, and that's their Achilles heel.
I will say this, Danny Sheridan, I like this pick a whole lot more than that Tech Virginia -13 job. We'll see about the rest of the picks.
Well, I'll remind you about that one then.
Okay. Well, the old CNN jinx, Danny, came through again last week. That's when we featured the TCU Horned Frogs. We told you how Jim Wacker's club was undefeated in league play and was eyeing its first Cotton Bowl in more than 30 years. That was before the Frogs went out and lost to Baylor 26-21. And that was before TCU lost its quarterback, Leon Clay, who was out for the season after suffering a hairline fracture in his right thumb. Clay had been responsible for 21 of the Frogs' 28 touchdowns this season. That is bad news. Now for more bad news. TCU takes on undefeated and 4th-ranked Houston today at the Astrodome. Quarterback David Klingler has everybody forgetting about Andre Ware. Klingler leads the nation in total offense, has a total of 6 400-yard passing performances this season, tying an NCAA record, and has conjured up even more Heisman rumblings in Houston. Out in Morgantown at that picturesque Mountaineer Field, a sellout crowd is expected to watch West Virginia host number 25 Penn State. Yes, the Nittany Lions have scratched their way back at our top 25 after losing their first couple of games of the season. And 5 straight wins later, including last week's field goal win in Tuscaloosa, has given Joe Paterno's squad another reprieve and perhaps another shot at a postseason bowl appearance. But let's talk about David Klingler and his Heisman chances. Danny, Andre Ware was able to win it last year, even with Houston on probation. Perhaps Klingler is another candidate this year. But what I want to ask you is that system, the offensive scheme at Houston, really tailor-made to rack up the numbers, or is David Klingler as good as everybody says he is?
Well, I think he's a gifted athlete, much like Andre Ware, but yes, the system is geared for big stats. The voters love big stats, so hopefully that answered your question.
All right. Is there a front runner in the Heisman trophy race at this point?
I don't think so, Dan. I think you have the 3 quarterbacks. You have Detmer, you have Moore, and, of course, Klingler. Then Greg Lewis, a fine running back from Washington, and Rocket Ishmael. It's like a toss-up every week, depending on how they do. Those would be the 5 in the running.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Sean Moore's performance on national television against Georgia Tech today will go a long way in deciding the Heisman Trophy winner. Just ahead, the picks just keep coming. Danny unveils the Auburn-Florida pick, plus we haven't forgotten about those Huskies in that Pac-10 title chase. All that and more when we come back in the College Football Preview.
There's nothing like beautiful Christmas music. Those heartwarming songs by our favorite performers.
Chestnuts roasting
Well, Time Life Music has gathered all your Yuletide favorites into one wonderful collection. 50 Christmas favorites. Just listen to the memories.
Frosty the Snowman was a jolly, happy soul.
Jingle bells, a jingle all the way.
I heard the bell on Christmas Day. A beautiful sight, all were happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland.
This year, fill your home with the glorious music of 50 Christmas favorites. Yours for $19.99 for 3 records or 2 double-length cassettes. $24.99 for 2 compact discs. 50 Christmas favorites will bring joy to you and your family for years to come. Here's how to order.
To order, credit card customers call 1-800-354-3800 or send just $19.99 for 3 albums or 2 double-length cassettes or $24.99 for 2 compact discs, plus $4 shipping and handling to 50 Christmas favorites. Box 1880, Department 2, Alexandria, Virginia.
We are back, and Auburn coach Pat Dye likes to refer to it as Amen Corner. And with the way the 5th-ranked Tigers have been winning, they probably have done their fair share of praying to get there. Amen Corner is the stretch run of games for the SEC Championship, and no one has run it better in recent years than Auburn, which has won or shared the conference title the last 3 years. But the Tigers have never won an SEC title without beating their traditional November opponents, Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. And the Gators haven't beaten the Tigers or the Bulldogs in 4 years, so the Gators are especially hungry as they await the Tigers in the beginning of the stretch run. First place in the conference is on the line. The Gators enter the game with the conference's best offense and defense. Quarterback Shane Matthews has been the SEC's most productive passer. He's only a sophomore, throwing for 14 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 9 interceptions. The Tigers, on the other hand, have been living a charmed life. They've stayed unbeaten by kicking last-minute field goals to beat Louisiana Tech and Florida State. Then, just last week, blocked an extra point attempt by Mississippi State to save that victory in Starkville.
A true championship team is going to find a way to win when it has to, whenever it's backed up against the wall. It's going to be times you're going to have letdowns. It's going to be hard to get up for a ball game. I think that was the case Saturday. And, a win's a win.
The past is the past. We should let go of what happened in the past. This is 1990. We have a new coach, a whole new team, whole new look as far as offense and the defense. The thing for us to do is come out and set our own trend for the 90s. If we can beat Auburn this coming Saturday, that would set a good trend.
Danny, last week you said Mississippi State would give Auburn all it could handle. That game was just about as close as you could possibly get. But Auburn once again escapes. But if they're going to play that way in Gainesville today, it could be a long afternoon for Pat Dye and the Tigers.
That's true, but you have to bear in mind, Dan, over the years in the big games, Auburn has played well. Auburn, without a doubt, they have more talent on paper than Florida. When you talk about NFL talent, look at both defenses, loaded. Auburn also has the finest offensive line in the country. Auburn's game plan is simple. They're just dare you to stop their powerful running game. Auburn played the same way last year, but at the end they finished strong. I like Florida in this game because they're playing at Florida Field. Auburn has lost 7 out of 8 here. Shane Matthews, the young Florida quarterback, has to have a good game, but Florida's also out for revenge. In the last 26 seconds last year, they lost 10-7 to Auburn on a 4th and 10. Reggie Slack threw a 25-yard touchdown pass. Revenge, the home field. I'll lay the 3, take Florida.
Interesting twist here. Auburn is ranked higher in the rankings, but the Tigers are the underdog here, so I guess they haven't really been garnering a lot of respect from people like you, Danny.
So you didn't listen to my point spread explanation. That has nothing to do with the rankings. It's the betting public's perception, and Florida's they obviously thought they're strong. It's felt they're a stronger team down there.
All right, well, that makes sense to me. You consider myself schooled now in the Danny Sheridan ranking theory. Well, Danny, tied for 5th in our rankings with Auburn is Washington. And the magic number for the Huskies now is 2. They can clinch the Pac-10 title with a win over Arizona this afternoon, coupled by an Oregon win over UCLA today in Eugene. It is that simple, but first things first. It depends on which Arizona team shows up today in Seattle. There's Wilbur the Wildcat. If he shows up and the team plays like him, it's going to be a long afternoon because the Cats lost to Oregon State badly. If they play like that, against the Huskies today, the Huskies may cruise. But if it's the team which has posted wins over Illinois, Oregon, and USC, Don James should be concerned. One look at that stat sheet, and you know Wildcat coach Dick Tomey is concerned about Washington. The Huskies not only have the best running back in the league in tailback Greg Lewis, but the Purple Haze defense leads the nation in rushing defense, allowing just more than 62 points a game. Dick Tomey has never lost to Washington in his 3 years at Arizona, but then again, maybe he's never seen a Husky squad this tough either.
Since I've been at Arizona, we've had great games with the Huskies. And they've all come down to a field goal with less than a minute left and to decide the outcome. And so they've been tremendous football games. And we have a lot of respect for them. They got a great football team. They've shown that they're the best team in this conference. And we have to go up there and upset them. And if we do it, we have a shot. So it's going to be fun to try.
The one thing they do, they have our attention. We have a lot of respect for the job they've done. We know how difficult they are to defeat because we haven't defeated them.
Danny, you can take a lot of looks at a lot of teams around the country, but I don't think as we head to November that there's many teams playing better than the Washington Huskies are right now.
There are only 2 teams in the country that would be favored over anyone today on a neutral field. That's Miami and Washington.
Well, it certainly looks like Washington will be there in their first Rose Bowl since 1982. All right, just ahead, Danny's final pick of the day. All favorites so far except for that one dog, but who will it be in Lincoln? The answer when we come back. Stay with us.
Today on TBS, can the Alabama Key handle the Mississippi O? A textbook matchup. The Crimson Tide versus the Bulldogs. Exclusively on TBS. Live at 12:30 Eastern today.
So, Mr. Big Shot Conica copier, no time to do anything but work, huh? Sure, your bosses, they just push your buttons, you go running. But for me, nothing. You're all the time copying, collating, copying. Hey, where'd you learn this collating anyway? Not in my house, you didn't. But don't worry about me. I'll be here, waiting.
Konica copiers, they just work all the time.
Sunday on CNN World Report. In Dubai, they're preparing for a display of air power, not to defend the country, but to show off aviation technology, a high-flying market for military flight. Plus, down and out in Bolivia, children are trading in street light for song, but will the music end if the money runs out? And in Czechoslovakia, winds of change blow up a movement of nationalism, keeping together 2 republics. On CNN World Report, 3 p.m. Eastern, Sunday.
Welcome back, and with so many games today having a direct bearing on the assorted conference championships, it has sent the Bull Scouts scurrying from school to school earlier than ever in hopes of gaining the negotiating edge. Danny, let's talk about top-ranked Virginia. And if they win today, would they be a lock to play in the Citrus Bowl, or how would this pan out?
Absolutely. They've already raised the money, Dan, so don't worry about Virginia. They win, they're definitely in. I don't care what they say. The money has been raised. They'll be playing in Orlando. The Fiesta, Colorado loses today. They'll definitely play out Florida State. And the Cotton Bowl, Miami's a cinch for the Cotton Bowl. The biggest recipient of the bowl games would be the Big Ten. 5 to 6 teams are in consideration for bowls from the Big Ten.
Boy, we haven't even mentioned the Wyoming Cowboys, 9-0. You just ignore them every week, Danny. We hear, our sources tell us, that Wyoming could be headed to the prestigious Copper Bowl in Tucson, Arizona.
I won't rule that out, Dan. I'm talking about major bowl games, and by the way, we'll have them all next week on the show.
All right, let's get to the final pick of the day. Colorado in Lincoln to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We've done a lot of knocking of Tom Osborne's schedule this year. What do you think? Is Nebraska for real, or are they perhaps one of the best teams Tom Osborne's had in his 17-year career at Nebraska?
I'll hedge a little and say they're probably somewhere in the middle. The obvious knock is their schedule, Dan. They haven't played anyone. They certainly haven't played anyone. Colorado's had a brutal schedule. They lost only 1 time to Illinois, one loss by 1 point at Illinois. The key here is Nebraska's defense. Tom Osborne says it's his best. The coaches I've spoken to, they agree. Nebraska's defense must stop Hagan and Bieniemy and give its offense good field position. They can't beat Colorado in a high-scoring contest. Nebraska's won 19 straight home games, and I think their defense will win it for them. And that's the only chance they have. They have to have this so-called great defense, and I'll go along and assume they do. Nebraska -6.5.
All right, we heard earlier in the show in the piece we did that Colorado is very good at stopping the run. Nebraska likes to establish the run first, then go to its pass attack, which really isn't much of a pass attack. They passed only 4 times against Iowa State. But do you see that as a key, Nebraska being perhaps forced to throw this afternoon?
Dan, more so it's Nebraska's defense, because I don't think Nebraska's offense can score unless they get great field position, and I think that's what they're going to do. Nebraska's defense is going to dominate this game, and that's why they'll win. If they don't, it doesn't matter what their offense does. They won't win the game. But I'm with you, Tom, on your defense, and the coaches tell me this defense, it won't manhandle Colorado, but that's the big key to the game.
That's what we hear. It should be a very interesting point. Let's go ahead and recap the picks and reveal the best bet of the afternoon. Virginia. Boy, I still don't understand this pick, but it's Virginia minus 13 over Georgia Tech. Just on record, I'll go on record, Danny, as saying Tech will keep it within 13. I don't think they're going to win the ball game.
That's just your youth coming out, but go ahead.
But then again, that's why you're in the hot seat and I'm not. Iowa plus 4 over Illinois in that inside race for the inside track to the Rose Bowl. Florida minus 3 over Auburn. They're all dogs except that Iowa pick, and we'll round it out with Nebraska minus 6.5 over Colorado, and the best bet is Florida minus 3 hosting the Auburn Tigers at Florida Field. So we'll keep that best bet in mind as we look forward to next week. Don't forget about the NFL preview tomorrow in this time slot. Host Vince Cellini and analyst Kenny Stabler take you through the Sunday schedule with previews and special features.